Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I want to do a little disassembly for you of this little guy. This is the Koenig Arius pocket knife. Very interesting knife. I first experienced this knife actually at the Blade show. I'm going to go ahead and this is a T8 driver here to pop out these screws. There's that. Maybe should be doing this in the reverse, where I deal with the screws on the back, because I'm going to have to pop the pivot back anyways. But anyways, first time I dealt with this knife was at Blade Show, where I stopped by the Koenig table and saw a couple of these and was very impressed. This is a T15, by the way, on the pivot here. But, and so when I labeled it as one of my best knives of Blade Show, and when I got home from Blade, I reached out to the Koenig folks, because, yeah, and they were very happy to talk further, and I ended up placing an order for this little guy. So, as you can see here, the knife is actually pretty straightforward, all told. It has an internal stop pin, and I'm sorry, no it doesn't. It is an internal stop pin in a sense, but it is the kind that is mounted within the blade rather than mounted in the frame that goes through the blade. Not a big deal, and in some ways this might be a slightly stronger approach. I'm not an engineer and whatnot, but you can see here there's not all that much to the knife. I mean, practically speaking, everything that's here is, well, fine, but yeah, so you've got a stainless steel washer that is inlaid into the titanium, which is good. You've got ceramic bearings, ceramic detent ball, which are also good things. Not necessarily crucial, but they're certainly good. You have solid titanium scales, beautifully machined. You can see here that the blasting is done inside the scale as well as outside. There's no engraving or anything like that on this guy. Is that a big deal? No, but it would actually be, I mean, aside from the Koenig on the blade, this is a, one at a time sort of production knife, and it would be nice to see some kind of numbering, something along those lines. It's a little nitpick, but it's something that I think would bring me some joy. You can see lock bar insert, over travel stop here. The back spacer, all the screws go into the back spacer rather than into the titanium, which means if there's a problem, I'm just replacing the back spacer, which is way cheaper and easier to do. So that's good. Pivot here is fine. You can see that it is D-shaped, but on the outside of the pivot, it goes into this hole, which has a D shape in it, which means that this pivot cannot spin freely, which is great. And, the knife on the whole is pretty straightforward internally. You have a nice little detent ball ramp on here, which is good. Tends to make the action, just a little bit smoother to close again, which is nice. Might as well clean off the blade here. I've been using this guy. This guy attacked some, I think this is cardboard, like packing tape residue. Getting it. One of the most common uses that I have for my particular blades, which is opening packages, breaking down boxes, that kind of thing. So there we go, clean that off. I have actually disassembled this knife one time previously. I did it live on Instagram just to make sure everything was sort of well lubricated and whatnot. So actually within probably 30, 45 minutes of doing this, I'm going to film my full review. So it's a little different than usual, but, hey, why not, right? But you can see here that even over the intervening couple of weeks, a couple of weeks-ish, since I did that this hasn't gotten that dirty, it hasn't gotten too grody. I mean, and why should it? What do I do? But, yeah, cleaning off the bearings now. Let's see here, everything's basically good to go. I mean, there's not that much going on here, but, in many ways that's A-okay. I will never object to a simple thing done well, and that's really a nice way to... Actually, I should use that in the review. This knife is a simple thing done well. Using a Q-tip here, just to get inside the pivot. There we go. Get inside the stop pin track. Not that it should be super necessary, but I'll go ahead and do it anyways. Get inside this area here. And did clean the pivot, I think, but just in case I didn't, let me... hit it one more time. Okay, we are now ready to put this guy back together. This is straightforward. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use 10 weight nano oil. This is a knife with a very, very nice action, and so it benefits from a higher end lubrication, I think. And I'm using it in a little pen form right now, but you are welcome to use the regular dispenser works fine. This just allows me to use a little bit less of it, because I have a tendency to over-lubricate. There we go. And also, if you are curious about any of the materials I'm using, including this fancy new mat, you can check my, I have a video about knife disassembly tools, and there I have a link to a Amazon store thing where I've put links to everything that I've got for disassembly. There, so there you go. Okay, I'm gonna try and set this down. There we go, such a way that the oil doesn't smear everywhere, and I'm gonna start reassembling. So I'll put the pivot through here, and then just rotate it so that the D shape pops into place. You know, that's one of those little details that I know probably cost them some money in terms of designing a pivot that does that, but my God, does it result in an ultimate, you know, over years of disassembly. That will help. It is a nice thing. Come on there. There we go. Perfect. Okay, drop some bearings on there. Use of ceramic bearings here is not crucial, but absolutely welcome. The ceramic detent ball, I think, is even better, which is good. Drop this on here. And also this, yeah, that's a nice little detail there. Go ahead and drop the next bearing on there. And I'm just going to use this to rotate the, to rotate the bearing, kind of distribute that oil onto the bearings themselves, which is fine. Then we're going to go ahead and drop the back scale onto this guy. The back spacer here is not shouldered in any way, so it's just being held on by the screw tension, but you know what, that's okay. Because these screws go in nicely, it's well threaded and whatnot. Okay, speaking of the screws, I'm going to use a little bit of blue Loctite. Here I'm using it in a paste-based format. And this will allow me to just make sure these screws aren't backing out particularly. So, if you're wondering about the Band-Aid, sometimes when you cut cardboard cuts back. And see, got me here, and then paper cuts off cardboard are not a pleasant thing. So anyways, T15, I have two drivers now. I need to remember this fact. Okay, T15 goes here. T8 back here. I've just got the pivot barely tightened at this point. The goal there is just to not have it come apart in my hands. Now I'll adjust the, I'll put in the back spacer screws. Loctite matches the screws, which is completely unnecessary and irrelevant to everything in life, but that's okay. Whoops. Now we put this little guy right onto here. A little bit of Loctite, pop this through. And again, now that these are tightened in, although already it's running crazy smooth. Got this cranked down all the way. Really? Did I Loctite the pivot? Yeah, I did. Okay, back it off just a little tiny hint. Smooth, beautiful. Centering is perfect, but better be at this price point. It's not necessarily fair. Yeah, actually it is. There we go. And now, as the oil distributes itself onto the bearings as well as onto the detent ball pad, yeah, the action's great. So there we go, we're back together. Like I said, simple thing, done well, no real concerns with it, and, you know, all the little features you'd hope for. Can't really argue with that. Well done there, Koenig. So now I'm going to film the review, but you'll see that on Saturday. Hope this has been interesting to you and that you have yourselves an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Bye now.